Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another series. This one is not going to be as detailed as my Cincinnati Reds series. I actually want to move a little quicker in this series, but we are here on MLB the Show 24, and we are going to be taking over the Los Angeles Angels. This is a team that lost Shohei Ohtani in free agency. They refused to trade him at the deadline last year, so they got nothing in return. This is the 23rd ranked team here in MLB the Show, 15th in contact, 12th in power, 24th in pitching, 26th in defense, and 13th in speed. But we are here. We're taking over the Los Angeles Angels. Let's get into this. Going through the settings here, we are going to leave GM contracts off, fantasy draft off, allow non-active free agents off, CPU roster control off, CPU trading on, ignore budgets off, forced trades off, designated hitter on, and extra innings runner on. The only thing we're changing here is the GM contracts because I don't want to get fired if we suck. And then here, everything will be on manual. I'm not going to allow the CPU to do anything. There's some other stuff that I have to go in and change, like the lineup adjustment. That's automatically set to auto. I don't know why, but we are going to be rocking on manual for all the settings. Here are our custom game entry conditions. This is a new thing here in MLB the Show 24. I don't want to be entering games that are low importance. I want to be entering games that are fairly high importance. And I want to be entering in about the 6th inning. Enter player highlight moments. Yes, we will. And the earliest inning we will play is the 7th inning. That'll make it so that we aren't jumping into as many games as we did in MLB the Show 23, but we're only hopping into games that are important games and important conditions. We're going to be starting in the regular season, not spring training. There's really no reason to do that. So here we are. We will be taking on Corbin Burnes and the Baltimore Orioles on opening day. But before we get there, let's talk about this roster. The very first guy is Mike Trout, 96 overall with the roster that I'm using. I'm using a custom roster just due to the fact that I want to make sure that the game has certain players like the international free agent signings. And there's a couple other players that just weren't in the game, like Marcelo Mayer. And then Noelvi Marte for the Reds wasn't in here because of his suspension. But Mike Trout, though, his stats are still electric, or his attributes, I should say. Looking at last year, he hit 263, only played in 82 games, though. He hasn't been healthy. He has not played over 120 games since 2019, where he hit 291 and had 45 homers. In a year where he only played 119 games, he had 40 homers last year, was certainly a down year. Once he went down, the Angels team went down in general. The big question mark with Mike Trout is, do we decide to trade him early in the franchise, or do we stick with Mike Trout? That is really the biggest question on this roster, because if you're going to start a rebuild, you want to start it now. You don't want to start it in a couple of years when you're not necessarily even a World Series contender leading up to that point. So the big question is, what do you do with Mike Trout? When you look at his contract, he is set to be on the team through 2030. So that's a big contract. I don't know if you're really going to be able to trade that, especially as he gets older. So if you are going to trade him, you're probably going to have to do it within year 1 or year 2. Patrick Sandoval is the highest rated starting pitcher, but it's really led by Reed Detmers, a potential 77 overall, only 24 years of age. I like his attributes here. Everything's in a pretty decent spot. There's a couple of parts that I would like to change, like his pitching clutch is low at a 52 and his walks per 9 is pretty low at a 56. This would be his 4th year on the team, his 3rd full year. Looking at his season last year, a 4.48 ERA, a losing record, and that was 148 innings of work. The year before, he was a lot better. Can he get back to that true rookie year form? We will look at the prospects here in a little bit, but Chase Silseth is actually the number 3 rated starting pitcher on the team at a 75 overall. The bullpen, pretty solid. Matt Moore, Andrew Wantz, Luis Garcia, Jimmy Herget, and then Jose Soriano, a young guy who has electric stuff, 99 velocity and 99 break. He's a guy at 25 years old we like to kind of develop. Logan O'Hoppe, a young, power-hitting catcher. He can rake. He can play a pretty good position behind the plate, but he can also hit extremely well. Can we do what we were unable to do with Tyler Stevenson in the Reds franchise? And that is, can we produce a good hitting catcher? Looking at his stats last year, 236 average, 14 homers. Kind of surprised that his ratings are as good as they are, seeing as he has only played in 56 total games. Nolan Schanuel, I'm pretty sure I said that correctly, A potential, 22 years old, 69 overall, 80 contact versus righties, 96 discipline. This is a guy that kind of reminds me of a young Joey Votto, if you will. 6'4", 220. Last year, he came up literally the same year that he was drafted, played in 29 games, 275 average, only 1 home run. I'm kind of excited for Nolan Schanuel. Brandon Drury, a former Red with very good power, 83 overall. He's actually the second highest rated player on the team, but Luis Rengifo is the younger guy and a guy who can hit against lefties extremely well. We'll have to see if Luis Rengifo can be a big contributing factor. Only have him for 2 more seasons, then he will be set to be a free agent. Anthony Rendon, probably if you had to sum up the Angels' history in the last 4 years, 5 years, it would be Anthony Rendon just being unable to produce anything. 9 home runs is the most that he's hit in a season. And the year before that, he was on the Nationals team that won a World Series and he hit 34 bombs. He has been terrible since joining this team. We have him for this year and 2 more years after, but that is a contract that just really is not tradable. I don't know how you could get rid of this guy other than to just cut him. But Anthony Rendon, probably not in the future plans at all. Zach Neto, on the other hand, certainly is. This is a young guy who made his debut last year, 84 games, 225 average, and 9 home runs. Pretty good power against lefties. Other than that, his hitting stats are pretty average. Defensively, pretty good. 61 speed, not really burning up the base paths or anything, but Zach Neto's a guy I'm extremely excited about. Taylor Ward in left field, 79 overall, C potential, 30-year-old. He's got some power, he's got some pop in that bat. Pretty solid defensively as well. Joe Adell is one of those guys that just has not been able to develop in the Angels organization. Decent hitting stats. I mean, they're in a decent spot, I should say. Very fast, very good on the base paths. Only 12 steal, which is kind of interesting to me. He has played quite a few games at the big league level, but he's been unable to do anything significant. Can we turn his career path around, and can we turn him into a guy like Mickey Moniak, who last year just ignited onto the scene here for the Angels? 14 homers, 280 average. This is a guy that I'm extremely excited about. Rakes against righties, struggles against lefties, pretty solid in the defense, pretty solid speed. Mickey Moniak is a guy that I am excited to play with here on this Angels roster. A guy that I could really see playing some center field, taking over Mike Trout's position out there and allowing Mike Trout to play DH, get him off of his legs a little bit, let him bat DH, and let Mickey Moniak do the work out in center field. Hunter Dozier is our other right fielder, but that is the roster. I want to take a look at our top prospects. MLB The Show 24 actually added a brand new feature that I actually think is pretty cool. So all of the free agent signings are current. Blake Snell to the Giants is on this roster. The only guy that still hasn't signed with anybody is Jordan Montgomery. I'm sure he'll sign with somebody eventually here in the franchise. If he doesn't, he's just going to miss out on playing some baseball for a year. But then JD Martinez is another guy. Adam Duvall as well, and Zach Greinke are guys that are all available. If somebody signs them, they sign them. If they don't, they don't. So this is the prospect promotion incentive of the 2024 season. This is kind of foreign to me, something I'm not really familiar with. But basically what it is if you get a guy at the top of this list, you kind of want to play him more because you can be rewarded for playing that guy more often, if that makes sense. I kind of have to study up on it myself, but that's kind of the gist of it. If you got a guy that's up here about the halfway part of the season, you better start playing him every day to get that incentive. But the big thing that they added in this year's MLB The Show game is the top 100 prospects. Then you can even filter it by organization and by position. But if you look at the top 100 prospects in baseball, you're going to be scrolling a long time until you get to Nolan Schanuel, who is our top rated prospect. I'm still scrolling and I'm in the 90s here. As a matter of fact, he's not even on the list unless I skipped over him. I may have. Let me see if I can find him. So Nolan Schanuel is 54th on the MLB's top 100 prospects. I'm going to scroll down a little bit farther to see if there is anybody else on the roster in the top 100. I'm not seeing any as I scroll down here. And no, it's Nolan Schanuel. Nobody after him on the top 100 leaderboard here. But I'm going to go up to the top prospects. I want to show you some guys who we will eventually see here in the franchise, as I just went to 100 and went back down. Jackson Chourio is the number 1 rated prospect here in MLB The Show 24, a 69 overall, a potential center fielder, and Jackson Holliday is the 2nd rated guy. He's going to rake. He's going to be very fun to watch in real life. and he's going to be pretty dangerous to play against here in the series as well. Ethan Salas is in the game, 18 years old, 68 overall catcher for the Padres. And then Paul Skeens is the 4th rated prospect. This guy's going to be electric, dating Livy Dunn, of course. And then one other guy that I'm super excited about is Dylan Cruz, 18th on the board here, but he is a 70 overall already. His hitting stats look good, but his defense looks even better. So looking at the top 20 by organization here for the Los Angeles Angels, Nolan Schanuel, number 1, of course. Caden Dana is number 2, B potential, 20-year-old starting pitcher. We really need to develop him because he's not in a good spot at the moment. And then Barrett Kent, another starting pitcher, very low overall. Can we develop him? And then you have Victor Medeiros here, a C potential starting pitcher. So this is a guy that may never see the big leagues. Kyron Paris here, a 22-year-old shortstop, C potential. His hitting stats aren't amazing. His defense looks pretty solid, and he is a speedster. Maybe he will get his first opportunity, or technically it would be his second opportunity, as he played in 15 games last year and had 40 total at-bats. Going through the rest of the guys here on the list, the theme is the Angels have no good prospects at all. I mean, this is a team whose farm system is downright pathetic, really. So we're going to look to improve the farm system via trades and by drafting well. Scouting is going to be a big focus here in year 1 to try and, pick up somebody that is pretty good at number 7 in the draft. But the only other way we can do it is by trading. And there's some guys on the team like Brandon Drury, Taylor Ward, maybe even Mike Trout that could produce some pretty good prospects in return. And then going by a position here, I'm going to imagine we don't have anybody atop their position here. Even at first base, we have Bryce Eldridge and Xavier Isaac above Nolan Schanuel. Aside from that, there's really not too much to look at when it comes to our prospects. They're not good at all. Our farm system isn't good at all. Scouting is going to be the big focus. And speaking of that, here we are at the scouts page. We're going to go through here. I'm going to actually make some replacements here, and then I will show you what scouts I come up with. So we have $3,900 left in our scouting budget. We've come up with Warren Young, who is a position player specialist. He can also do a little bit of discovery and pitchers as well, but that 96 efficiency coupled with that 92 position players, that's why we locked him up. Roger Piper, 97 efficiency and 94 on pitchers. He is going to be our pitcher specialist. And Harper Dobson will be our discovery expert, as he has, or she has, a 98 overall discovery rating. But those are our prospects there. Our scouts there that are going to be scouting our future prospects and our future, hopefully developed, highlighted players, if that made any sense at all. But there are our scouts. And then aside from that, I don't really know what much there is to do in this episode. I guess the one thing you can look at is we are predicted to finish 4th in the American League West, which I believe is pretty accurate. But when you look at the American League West, we are clearly the 4th best team. The Mariners, Astros, and Rangers are light years ahead of us. The only team that will be dominating, you would hope, is the Athletics. Aside from that, the American League Central is very weak, and the American League East can produce probably 4 playoff teams, in a crazy scenario. The Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays, and Orioles are all very good teams. One thing you can look at is our payroll is at $194 million at the moment, and looking at some of these contracts here, you have a couple of big ones, and it's really highlighted by Anthony Rendon and Mike Trout. But Tyler Anderson and Robert Stevenson also have some pretty big contracts. Aside from that, there's really not anybody else. So if you can, potentially dump Anthony Rendon's contract, and if you were to trade Mike Trout, you're starting fresh, and you're going to try and build a young team. That is another thing with this franchise, is I'm not going to be going out there to sign free agents that are older for a high price. I want to bring in guys who are a little bit younger for a lower price, if at all possible, because I want to get rid of some of these big contracts and some of these older guys that are on top here. Anthony Rendon, Tyler Anderson's pretty old, Matt Moore also pretty old. I want to have more guys, within that range of 25 to 29 years old. There's a couple of them you see here. Luis Garcia, also very old, but we will have to see what we can do to make this team better. The draft is in 115 days. It's something that I am looking forward to. Our first scouting session will be on Sunday, April 7th. That will be the first time that we're able to get a look at some of these top prospects, or draft eligible prospects. But I'm looking forward to this series. Like I said, I will be moving a lot quicker in this franchise. I'm not going to, worry about simming maybe a month, maybe even 2 months at a time. I just want to get through some seasons here before the new college football video game comes out, because that will then be the focus of the channel. But if you guys are excited for this franchise, I encourage you guys to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next Angels franchise video. See ya.